Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's Friday, January 24th. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to kind of go deep dive into some thoughtful things because I feel like I've had a second chance at life. And you know what I mean when I start talking about it. Because some of the questions I asked myself, you know, were deep. So, hang tight. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today's Friday, so most of you guys have got the weekend off. So, what am I talking about? A deep dive? Well, very few people get that second chance at life. They don't. And if they do, I've seen them waste it. Not all, but some. And what do I mean by waste it? I mean, they go back to their old patterns instead of having it be a wake up call. Because I can remember, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed and what to look for as well. But when this all first started, I mean, I was having a lot of chest pains, but I was an EMT for 18, 19 years. And we're the worst patients, anyways. But the thing is I kept saying it wasn't cardiac, that it was something else. And it was a pulled muscle on my rib cage, right? That was causing all this pain in my chest. And then I ended up developing pneumonia. And they put me on antibiotics. And a week and a half later, I'm not doing any better. Actually, I'm getting worse. So I got a hold of my primary and said, look, we're going to have to go back to step one. Do an EKG and draw some blood and see what's going on. And when I got back because she was quick. She said, head for the hospital. They're going to do an EKG and the blood work, and I'll let you know what the results are. By the time I had gotten back to the shop and was there maybe 5-6 minutes from the hospital, my primary calls and says, do you have a ride back to the hospital? And she's not telling me what's going on. She's saying, don't blow me off because I have a tendency of, I know all, right? But she's like, you need to listen to me. You need to have Claude take you to the ER now. So I told Claude, I said, give me a ride to the ER. And even when we got to the ER, all right, I told him, I said, I got my phone. I shouldn't be that long. And so hang tight. Or if you want to go home, I can give you a call. That was it. If you want to go, and I'll give you a call when they're done with me. They weren't done with me. They got me in, stripped, IV'd, prepped, and with an ambulance rolling in to transport me 2.5 hours to a big hospital where a cardiac team was waiting for me. You know it's bad if you have a cardiac team of surgeons waiting for your ass to show up. That's when it started to sink in. When the doctor come in and said, Eric, do you know what's going on? I said, I haven't got a clue. I said, I have pneumonia that I can't get rid of. And these chest pains have been just a pain right in the backside. I said, I've been controlling the pain. When it comes on, I start breathing light, soft, and it'll let up. And he said, all those pains that you've been having are heart attacks. you are in rough shape, that they're waiting for you down there. And that's when it really sunk in. And the ride from the one hospital to the other was 2.5 hours. And the whole 2.5 hours, I was thinking about my family. Because then the seriousness set in, but not how serious it was. Just that something was going on with my heart that they needed to do something. And it could be stents, it could be a bypass, it could be, they have them all the time, right? But when I got to the other hospital, they didn't even stop at the ER. I've never seen that before, where a hospital and the surgical team bypasses the complete ER and you go straight up to the surgical unit. Never. Then I started thinking, oh, it's a lot more serious than what they're telling me. Because I'd asked the EMT on the ride out through, because there was one driving and one in the back with me that was monitoring my heart the whole way. I said, so how serious is it? And she said, I can't tell you. But she said, it's serious enough that they want you in upstate. So when I got upstairs, they started cathetering me. I don't remember a lot of it because it was a whirlwind. And these parts were filled in after the fact, right? And that was about 6 hours into the surgery. And what they do for a bypass of any kind is they take and they will stop the heart, stop the lungs, put you over on a bypass machine that feeds oxygenated blood to all parts of your body that your heart and lungs do while they're working in that area. They don't want, the heart trying to beat and push blood when they're working on it, and the lungs as well. And if you didn't know, they split you and just peel you right back. All right, that's how they get access. And 6 hours in, my daughter gets the call, and the call is we had a warfarin bleed. And if you don't know what warfarin is a heavy hitter blood thinner. And it's used a lot for open heart surgery to help with the bypass machine so that it can push the blood easier, right? But they developed a bleed away from the heart and lungs. So they had to come to a stop. And the only way they could fix the bleed was to shut the bypass machine off. The sole purpose of a bypass machine is to keep the blood and oxygen through all your extremities, and that includes your brain. All right? So they had to shut it off for almost a full 7 minutes. And my daughter gets the call because the other thing you want to do today is make sure you have a healthcare proxy. Someone that you can trust to make that call for you when you can't talk for yourself. All right? And she has always been my healthcare proxy, my daughter. But the call basically was, look, this is what happened. And there is a good chance that your father will be a vegetable if we continue. We just need to let you know that. Do you want us to continue or do you want us to stop? What would his wishes be? And thank goodness for me, she said, You save his ass no matter how or what you have to do. He is not going to be a vegetable. Get him done and get him out of there. So they continued another 2.5 hours doing the quadruple bypass. That means 4 bypasses, no stents, bypasses of taking the veins out of your legs and putting them around for your heart. And as a precautionary, they kept me in an induced coma for 2 days. That's not normal either. But they kept me in an induced coma for 2 days. And they really didn't know what to expect when they started bringing me around. And I feel bad for the people that love me. Because they're sitting there watching all the terrible things, right? So after being in an induced coma for 2 days, they started bringing me around. And if you have a loved one that has ever been put on, because at that point I was still on the machine was doing the breathing for me. Okay? I still had the tube down my throat. And day 2, they decided that let's take this stuff away and see what happens. Will he breathe on his own? And if he does, what's going to be left of him? What's going to be left of him? Of his mind and his ability to talk. But the main thing they were shooting at is, will his body take over and breathe? Or is it just going to drop right off? It's a hard thing. So you can just imagine how amazed they were as when they took that off, I was breathing on my own. And not only was I breathing on my own, that everything started returning to normal on the machines, the EKG machines. You're hooked up terrible. It looks terrible to your family members because I had like a halo with all these different places where they could inject, different things if they needed to. And they had the team on hand when they did that if something terribly went wrong. But they were trying to decide, will he even have the strength to try to live? And one thing you're going to learn about me is I have a strong resilience. And I've always had a strong faith in God. I don't go to church. I don't read the Bible. But my feeling is you don't need anybody to talk to God. I talk to him all the time. Does he talk back like if it were you and I having a conversation? Not usually. But things will show up that you're talking about of how to do this and do that, And things work out. So, of course, after they took the breathing tube out and I was resting comfortably, they knew it still, the next hurdle was, is he going to be a vegetable? Is he even going to know the people around him? and was it the right call to keep going? I know that was on all their minds. So it was late day 3 or into day 4. And I'm laying, and they've got like your arms are strapped. That's when I first started coming to. And the pain that you feel, because once they took the machine out, they still had a lot of pain meds on board. And for the next day or two, they would continue to give me pain meds through my IVs. But when I first started coming around, I can remember it was at night because I had Josh was on. It was a young black man. And he is a registered nurse. All of these nurses that I came in contact with were all under 25. Unreal. But he was my caretaker that night when I started coming around. And I'm like, where am I? So, and I'm still garbled, right? I don't know what day it is. I'm not quite sure of the hospital that I'm in. There's a bunch of things that I didn't know. Even though when I showed up, I knew I was at Upstate. But I kept saying Upstate University instead of Upstate Medical. But Josh was great. He told me, he says, you're at Upstate. And I said, my mouth is so dry. I just feel like I'm just so dry. And he said, I can give you ice water with a straw. That's all I can do for you. If you need pain meds or something like that, let me know and we'll put more on board. I'll talk with the nurse practitioner that's on this evening. And I said, no, the pain level's high, but that's when I started remembering, okay, I had open heart surgery. That's why the pain's there. So that was the big talk the next morning is that he was awake and talking. And for most surgeries, it's like, well, I hope so. But my surgery was different. They still hadn't decided whether I was going to be a vegetable or not. And no, I wasn't. So with Josh, I was able to talk with him back and forth and ask him questions. So when the morning staff got on, actually the surgeons, they didn't start till 7, but they were usually in there by 6, and they were in my room at 6 when they first come on. And they were asking me questions, and I didn't know the answers to the questions because it was vague. But I understood that I had heart surgery, and it was a serious surgery, and that's when the surgeons were telling me of the issues they had during surgery and how lucky I was. But I was still in what you would call a brain fog. A lot of stuff, I wasn't quite sure how to answer. Do you know what today's date is? No. Do you know where you are? I said, I'm at University Hospital. And they would correct me again and say, no, you're at Upstate Medical. So I would try to remember that the next time they asked me so I would have the right answer. But it was probably day, when my kids came in, I recognized my kids when they came in. I wasn't able to hold on a lengthy conversation, but I could, you know, answer yes and no's. And the thing with upstate is they like to get you up and going. The quicker they can get you on your feet. But I was well into week 2 before they asked me, did you want to try to get up and walk a few steps assisted? We'll get help and we'll help you walk however many steps you want to walk. And the first time wasn't very far, probably 70, 80 steps. But my goal was doing anything and everything I could to be able to go home. And I had my own private room. And like I say, the staff was outstanding. The nursing staff, the surgical staff, even the cleaning staff were always outgoing. And that tells me it's a good place to work. That they're supportive of each other. But that was my goal, was to do as much walking as I could. Because I knew that a couple things had to happen. I had to walk so far. I had to crap. You do. And if you do all that, then you get to go home. And when I started walking, I started waving and noticing people in the other units on the ICU ward. I was in the cardiac ICU. So I remembered their faces, right? And I watched people come in after me that were just brought up through. And then I would watch them within a week. Family members coming to get them to take them home. And I'm asking my surgeons, my doctors, and my nurses, when do I get to go home? And I kept hearing, you're a complicated case, Eric. I'm complicated. But I continued to do everything they wanted me to do. And the thing is, for the first 3 weeks, they bathed me in bed, got me ready for the next shift, and most of the time I just lay in bed. But by week 3, I was up. I was sitting in my chair during the day. And any chance that I got to walk, because you weren't allowed to just go walk, you had to have assistance. And the thing with walking is I had EKG leads that they would take off every shift and put new ones on. And when I got ready to do any walking, they had a plug in. They unplugged it from the top one that goes out to the nurse's station. And when I plugged it into this unit, it came back online at the nurse's station. So they could watch my heart from the nurse's station. Actually, from any of the computers that they had on there, they had like carts that they would. But I had one nurse per shift that was there with me. Sometimes I would have 2, but usually 1. But when I got ready to get up and walk, they would take and unplug me from the one in my bed in my room and plugged me into this portable one that hung around my neck so I could walk, right? And by the end of week 3, I was up 3, 4 times a day walking. And they encouraged that. But there are things that are still issues today. And I don't complain about them. They just make me special. And that is, I have memory problems. I could tell you that I watched a good movie last night and the night before, but I can't tell you what the movie's name was, and I can't tell you what it was about, other than it was good. My medicines and my medicine, I was getting it screwed up because there's like 18 different medications that I take. And my biggest fear, because I could tell I was messing it up, was after all that work that everybody put into me to get me well, I would end up killing myself from overdosing or not getting a certain medication that I needed. So I had to push my pride down and ask for help. And my daughter was doing my medicine. And now I have neighbors that do it for me. I'll sit with them as they're doing it, but they're gracious enough to do it. And one of the things that, I kept asking, why? Where so many don't make it. There were so many things. They said I would have been dead within a week if I had not gotten there. I had a 99% blockage with a 9% heart function. Yep. But you can't help but ask why. And one of the things that I've had to do is I've had to ask for help. And I think that's part of it, is I never asked for help. I was always the first one that would help you. But when it came time to ask for help, I would just do it myself. And if I couldn't do it myself, I wouldn't do it. Because I didn't want to bother people. But one of the things that this has shown me, and I think that's part of his learning lesson, is by asking for help, it's showing me that the people around me shine. And it also shows how much I mean to everybody. One of the things that when you go through a traumatic event, or where you could have lost your life, it can't help but, and I've seen this happen so many times, people go through that and they get out of it and they have a chance to make their lives even better, but they revert back to the old ways of doing things. And then they wonder why they end up with the same results. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result, right? I wasn't going to waste this opportunity. That I have slowed down. I am smelling the rose. I have had to ask people for help. And I appreciate the people around me so much more. And it's not just family, it's everybody in the neighborhood. It's you guys. But I'm going to start wrapping this up because it's getting long. But the main theme is that it's never too late. You don't need a traumatic event in your life to cause change. A lot of times it does cause that. But I've seen so many people revert back to the old way. And there's been numerous times in my lifetime that it wasn't just sheer luck. I could have been paralyzed from the neck down had they not caught my disc pushing on my spinal cord from a mining accident and rushed me into emergency surgery. Another time, right? There's somebody bigger than I am taking care of me. And I must be doing some things right for him to want to keep me around. Because I've always thought that either you haven't learned what you need to learn, or you need to teach somebody something they need to be taught. That's why you're still around. But what I'm telling you now is, here's your chance to hear from someone that's going to give you the right answers. Is you need to slow down. Money's not everything. People are worth so much more. Yes, you can rely on other people. Not all people, just other people. And by asking for help from the people around you has shown me how much I mean to them. People have been knocking at my door and begging me to have the ability to help me. And you ask why. And I asked why. And I was told, you know what? You've done so much for so many people. It's your time. And allow them to help to return the favor. Allow them to return the favor. How long am I going to have to ask for help just to do my meds for the week? I don't know. Am I ever going to get full function of my memory? I don't know. Is that going to stop me from pushing forward? Absolutely not. Is my quality of life worth it? Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to fishing. I walked 6 minutes yesterday. And that's more than I've done. I feel in better shape than when I was 40. And I attribute it to a lot of different things that is taking place. I no longer smoke. I don't have the urge to smoke. I don't drink anymore because I can't stand the taste of it. And walking for 6 minutes, I wasn't even breathing heavy. What I was doing to my body, I'm surprised it hasn't killed me. Smoking over 3 packs a day. Eating whatever I wanted to, 1 meal a day. I was doing 3 meals when I got out of the hospital, but I'm back to my 1 meal a day, usually in the evening. That's what I've done for so long, and I'm not hungry. But if I can instill anything in you, is to value your family. Enjoy them while you can. My kids are the most important thing, and my grandkids in my life. I'm going to spend a lot of time this summer fishing. I say this every year, but this year is the year. I am so looking forward for hunting season to come around. I'm waiting for this summer and fall where I can cut firewood. I have so many things that I look forward to right now, that I am looking forward to. I want to get back to working with my cows. I've been sneaking up, giving them grain. And I'm still on the lifting restriction of no more than 5 pounds. Well, I got 5 gallon pails that are half, 3/4 full of grain for the two of them for my cows. Let this be your wake up call through me. Slow down. Enjoy the people around you. Enjoy the things that are going on around you. And stop needing to get to the next thing. It'll come. Maybe not as fast, but you'll enjoy the journey, right? I keep telling you that. You have to enjoy the journey. It's not from point A to point B. Getting to point B is not the goal. It's the journey traveling that road. And a lot of us don't enjoy the journey because we're so busy trying to get to that next point. So on that note, you guys have a great Friday. And I'll probably have some personal development or something over the weekend. But on that note, you guys have a great Friday.